Her name is Sojourner Truth. She gave herself that name upon the instructions of the Holy Spirit when she was 46 years old and became a traveling preacher, just like the name says. But she was born with the name Isabella Baumfree, a slave. She was one of 13 children and only spoke Dutch when she was sold away from her family at the age of 9. She was forced to learn English very quickly under the abusive hand of her new owner. At 18 years old, when her first love was caught visiting her, her owner dragged him away and beat him, bruising and mangling his head and face, and she never saw him again. And it wasn't long after that she gave birth to her first daughter, Diana. She was then forced to marry a man named Thomas and had 4 more children with him. It was her youngest, Sophia, whom she was able to take with her when she left the Dumont land. She is quoted as saying, "I did not run off, for I thought that wicked, but I walked off, believing that to be all right." Later, with the help of activist Quakers, Sojourner Truth went to court to get her 5-year-old son Peter back. It took months, but she did get him back, and when he came to her, she found him all scarred and abused. In 1929, she left the home where she had been staying as she had the inspiration to preach, overwhelmed with the greatness of the divine spirit. She quickly became known as a remarkable preacher. She ultimately joined the Northampton Association of Education and Industry, which was a cooperative group of about 200 people who lived together on 500 acres of farmland. The association was strongly anti-slavery and big supporters of women's rights. Sojourner Truth worked with newly freed slaves and began campaigning for the federal government to provide former slaves with land in what was then known as the New West. She also continued on her speaking tours and spoke out against capital punishment. At one speaking engagement, someone in the audience accused her of being a man, and she replied by opening her blouse to reveal her breasts. But it was in 1854 in Ohio when Sojourner Truth lived her most memorable moment and gave her famous speech, "Ain't I a Woman?"
Well, children, well, there is so much racket there must be something out of kilter. I think twixt the Negroes of the South and the women of the North, all talking about rights, the white man will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helped me in a carriage, or over a mud puddle, or gives me the best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted. I can work as much, no man can head me. I gathered in the barns, and ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I get it, and bear the lash as well, and ain't I a woman? I have bored 13 children and seen most of them sold off to slavery, and when I cried out in my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me, and ain't I a woman? When they talk about this thing, what's that thing in the head? What they call it? Intellect. That's it, honey. What that got to do with a woman's rights or a Negro's rights? If my little cup won't hold but a pint and yours hold a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then, that man there, that night that little man in black, he said women can't have rights as much as men, cause Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man ain't had nothing to do with it. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them.